Hello children, this is grade 9 biology and today we are going to learn about the second chapter in biology, that is tissue. In the first chapter we have studied about the cell, which is the fundamental unit of life, where in unicellular organisms a single cell carries all the activities required to keep living organisms alive. But in multicellular organisms there are number of cells to carry out the functions like respiration, excretion, reproduction, circulation, etc. So, cells of the same kind group together to form a tissue. This means cells specializing in one function are often grouped together to form a tissue. In multicellular organisms, all the cells do not take up the same function. The functions of the group of cells or the tissues are divided, and this is called as division of labor. So, what is division of labor? Like for example, if we take digestive system, the cells of tissue in this group will be responsible only for the process of digestion. That is, all the organs here will be associated only with the digestion of food, like the mouth, esophagus, stomach and the intestines. Likewise with the other systems also. So, cells of the same kind form a tissue to perform the same function. Now, let us compare whether plant and animal cells have the same type of tissue. Basing upon the concepts or the factors, plants and animals have different tissues. First being the movement. We know that plants are fixed at a place but can show movement of the leaves, the flower or the stem and sometimes the root, basing upon the certain stimulus. But these movements are at a fixed place and are very slow movements. So, plants do not require tissues for quick movement. They require tissue for providing strength and support to the plant. Whereas animals on the other hand require tissue which can provide quick movement to the body. So, animal requires more number of tissues when compared to the plant tissue. Second difference is the pattern of growth. Plants show growth in specific parts, whereas in animals the growth is uniform throughout the body and is limited. Thirdly, it is the organ complexity. Animals have more complex organs when compared to the plants. So, this is also one factor which makes plants and animal tissue different in structure and function. Lastly, the cell growth. In plants, growth is restricted to certain parts and these cells are called as meristematic tissues. And other cells are called as permanent tissue. This is not seen in animals. So, these are some basic differences between the number and the function they perform in plant and animal tissue. Now, let us learn about the plant tissues. Plant tissues are of two types based on their growth pattern. They are meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. The tissues that are actively dividing and growing are called as meristematic tissue, and the cells which are not growing are the permanent tissues. Meristematic tissue is classified as apical meristem, lateral meristem and intercalary meristem. We have learned that meristematic tissues are the actively growing tissue of a plant. There are three different types as we have just discussed. So, let us now learn the location and function. Apical meristem is present at the growing tip of stem and root, and it helps in increasing the length of the root and the shoot system. So, meristematic tissues forms new cells at the tips, helping the plant to grow and later differentiate into permanent tissue. Lateral meristem is found at the cambium, also called the vascular bundles, and helps in increasing the width of the stem or the root. Intercalary meristem is found in between the internodal space It helps in increasing the height of the plant by increasing the tissue between the two nodes. The cells of meristematic tissue are very active and have dense cytoplasm and thin cell wall. Now let us learn about permanent tissue. Permanent tissue are formed once the meristematic tissue lose their ability to divide and take up a permanent shape, size and function. Permanent tissue are of two types: simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. First, let us see what are simple permanent tissues. Simple permanent tissues are made of same kind of cells. They are similar in structure, form and origin. Parenchyma, also simply called as the packing tissue, are a type of simple permanent tissues. These are loosely packed with air spaces between them. These are found in stem, root and leaves. Certain parenchymatic cells consists of chlorophyll, which helps in photosynthetic activity. Such parenchymatic cells are called as sclerenchyma. Whereas in certain aquatic plants, the intercellular spaces are filled with air, which helps in giving buoyancy to the plants. That is, they help in floating. Such a parenchymatous cell is called as arenchyma. So, basing upon what function they perform, they are either called as sclerenchyma or arenchyma. The structure of these tissues are, they have thin cell wall with unspecialized cells. They store food and water and are basically found in stems and roots. The second type of simple permanent tissue is collenchyma. This is found in plant parts which are flexible and can be bent easily without breaking, like in the stalk of the leaf, flower or fruit. Basic differences between parenchyma and collenchyma is the intercellular space. Here the intercellular space is very less and the cell walls are irregularly thickened. That is, at the corners they are thick and in some places they are thin. Sclerenchyma. This is the other kind of simple permanent tissue which makes the plant hard and stiff. These cells do not have intercellular space and are tightly packed. Most of the cells here are dead cells. They provide strength to the plant due to the lignin deposition, and this lignin deposition is present on the cell wall. This lignin acts as a cement and hardens it. These are found in the husk of coconut, shells of seeds and nuts. Sclerenchyma is also found in stem, around the vascular bundles and in the veins of leaves. Now, let us learn about epidermis. Epidermal layer is the outermost layer of a plant part. It is mostly found as a single layer covering, but in some plants it is multi-layered. It protects the plant from bacterial or fungal infection and also affects the entry and loss of water in certain plants. Epidermal cells are flat and continuous without intercellular gaps. The outer walls have a waxy coating to prevent water loss and also provide mechanical support. Mostly desert plants have waxy coating of cutin to prevent the water loss from its body. They have stomatal pores here and there on the lower surface of the leaf, which are called as stomata. These stomata help in exchange of gases and in transpiration. Epidermal cells of the roots have root hairs to increase the water absorption area so that more water and minerals can be absorbed from its surrounding. These epidermal cells have a strip of meristematic tissue just below the cells. These meristematic cells keep dividing and push the epidermal cells forward. These old and worn out epidermal cells forms the bark. So, in epidermis, the main function we learnt are it provides protection, they help in exchange of gases, they have a waxy coating to prevent the water loss, they have root hairs for more water absorption, and they also form bark of the plant. Now, let us learn about complex permanent tissues. Complex permanent tissues are made of more than one type of cells. All the cells come together to perform a common function. Here the cells are different in structure, form and origin. Complex tissue consists of xylem and phloem vessels. Xylem consists of tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. Of these, tracheids, vessels and xylem fibers are dead cells, whereas xylem parenchyma are the living cells. Xylem is responsible for conducting water and minerals from roots to different parts of the plant body. Basically, the movement of water is unidirectional, that is, from the roots to the stem. Phloem. Phloem is made up of sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem fibers and phloem parenchyma. Of these, only phloem fibers are the dead cells, whereas the other three components are living. Phloem is responsible for translocation of food from the leaf to different parts of the plant. Here, the movement happens in both the directions, unlike xylem. So basically, xylem and phloem are responsible for transporting water, minerals, food in the plant body. So till now we have learnt about the plant tissues. Plant tissues are less complex than the animal tissue because of their more complex activities. In animal we have variety of tissues which perform variety of functions. So let us learn the epithelial tissue. We will learn about the structure and function as well. The outside and inside of the body has a protective covering made up of epithelial tissue. The main function of this tissue is giving protection to the outside of the body and also protecting different organs in the body. Epithelial tissue forms a layer like covering. They may be single or multi-layered. Cells are tightly packed with no intercellular space, and they act as a barrier, forming a selectively permeable membrane. Basing upon their structure and location and function, epithelial tissue is classified into squamous epithelium, columnar epithelium and cuboidal epithelium. So first let us learn about squamous epithelial tissue. These are flat cells and are single layered. They form a lining and give protection to the parts. Example, the places where we can see squamous epithelial tissue are the lining of the blood vessels, lung alveoli, esophagus and also in the lining of the mouth. In all these cases, it's only a single layered. Skin is also squamous epithelium, but they are made up of many layers to prevent from the wear and tear or the damage. So this is a picture of a stratified squamous epithelium where it is multi-layered. The next is columnar epithelial tissue. Here the cells are pillar-like and are arranged in a row, forming a barrier. The main function of this tissue is they help in absorption and secretion, and so these are found in the lining of intestines. It is also found in the respiratory tract. These epithelial tissues have hair-like structures called cilia to move the mucus, and so they are called as ciliated columnar epithelium. The next one is cuboidal epithelial tissue. The cells here are cube shaped. These are found in the lining of kidney tubules and salivary glands. Their main function is providing mechanical support. At the surface of the epithelial cells, they perform function of secretion, and sometimes they also fold inwards, forming glandular epithelium. The second type of animal tissue we are going to learn about in the connective tissue is the connective tissue. This tissue helps in connecting different parts and in transporting different materials. Blood is a type of connective tissue. Blood consists of plasma and blood cells. Plasma is the liquid fluid in which red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets are suspended. All these components have different functions individually, but the main function of the blood is to transport materials in the body. The second connective tissue is the bone. Bone is a hard tissue. Its main function is giving mechanical support and strength to the body. The bone cells are composed of calcium and phosphorus in a hard matrix. The third connective tissues are the ligaments and tendons. Ligaments contain very little matrix and provide elasticity. They help in joining bone to a bone, whereas tendons join muscles to bones. These are less flexible when compared to ligaments and provide great strength. Another type of connective tissue is the cartilage. Cartilage is a soft bone. It provides flexibility. These are found in the tip of the nose, earlobes, trachea and larynx. They are also found at joints to smoothen the surface and prevent friction. The next type of tissue is the areolar tissue. This is another kind of a connective tissue. This tissue connects different parts of a body. These are found between the skin and muscles, also found around the blood vessels and nerves, and also in the bone marrow. They support the internal organs to be in their positions. Adipose is also a connective tissue. These are found below the skin and between internal organs. These tissue help in storage of fat molecules and they also act as an insulator. Now let us learn about the muscular tissue. Muscular tissue is found in animals and functions by contracting and relaxing. They help in movement of our body parts. Muscular tissue are of three types. They are striated, unstriated and cardiac muscles. Striations means bands. When we observe striated muscles under a microscope, we can find bands on the cells. These are found in the limbs, tongue, etc. and are also called as skeletal muscles, as they are attached to the bones and so they are voluntary in nature. That means the movement of these muscles are under our control. The cells are long with many nuclei and are not branched. They do not have branches. They have light and dark bands and so the name is given striated muscles. Now let us learn about unstriated muscles, which are also called as smooth muscle. These muscles do not show any bands or striations. They are spindle shaped, that is tapered at both the ends. These are found in the lungs, iris of the eye, in the ureter. The movement of this tissue is not under our control and so they are involuntary muscles. The cells in this tissue have a single nuclei and they are not branched. The third type of muscular tissue is the cardiac muscle. These muscles are found only in the heart. These muscles show rhythmic contraction and relaxation throughout our life. They are involuntary muscles, that is, the heartbeat is not under our control. The cells of this tissue have flat ends and show zigzag structure. The cells have branches and have a single nuclei. Now let us learn about our nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is made up of specialized cells called nerve cells or neurons. These cells give rapid response to stimuli from one place to another in our body. Nervous tissue consists of the brain, the spinal cord and the nerves. If we look at the structure of a neuron, it consists of a cell body, which is also called as cyton. Cyton contains nucleus and cytoplasm. A long elongated tube arises from the cyton, which is called as axon. This axon is covered by a membranous sheath called the myelin sheath, which acts as a shock absorber. Axon ends in nerve terminal, also called nerve ending. Many short branch-like parts arises from the cyton called the dendrites. Near the nerve terminal, the dendrite of the next nerve cell is located, which forms a continuous network of neuron. There is a gap between neuron to the next neuron, and this gap is called as synapse. These bunch of neurons are bound together by connective tissue to form a nerve, and these nerves are connected to the muscle. So whenever a stimulus acts upon the body, the neurons absorb the information with the help of the dendrites and pass it on to the cyton, and the cyton then passes it on to the axon and to the nerve terminal in the form of an electric impulse. So after the brain analyzes the information, the response is carried back by the nerves to the muscles to give the response. So nervous tissue helps in giving quick responses.